Happy New Year, Relevant Church. We're so excited that you tuned in to kind of get a recap of what all has gone on in 2022 and really to look forward to 2023. I'm here with my wife, Julie, and our student pastor, Daniel Foster. I know that this past year has been exciting. It's been hard. There's been good, bad, and ugly. But as we look back, I think you're going to see the impact that you've had through generosity and serving, as well as just hear some cool stories. And we're going to look forward into 2023 also to talk about what we're going to do and how we're going to continue to make a difference and partner with people to help them live out their purpose. And so as we jump in today, I thought it'd be cool to share a couple stories. I know there's a lot of things that have happened. It seems like for me, first of all, we just came off of the coldest Christmas that I can ever remember.
Gosh, so cold.
And Friday of Christmas services, they were projecting, negative 10 wind chill factor. It's wild. I could never live up north. Let's just say that way. But there's been a lot of memorable times this year, Christmas being even one of those. But I don't know, maybe start with a story. We'll start with you, Daniel. What has been maybe a big takeaway from you or a story or something that was impactful for you this past year? I don't know that you want to share.
Man, there's so many stories. I could go on for hours, but one of my favorites was a Wednesday night in our checkout line. One of my favorite parts of Wednesdays is kind of being out in the checkout, saying hey to parents, checking in, telling students, have a great week, see you next week. And I saw one of our parents, the father of some of our students, and he's coming to pick up his kids. And I said, hey, how's it going? And we did some small talk, and I moved on to the car behind him, and I realized, oh, that's his wife. So I was kind of teasing like, y'all didn't communicate. Y'all thought each other were going to pick up your kids. And she says, no, both of our kids wanted to bring their friend. And we didn't have enough room in one vehicle to bring the friend, so we had to come in two separate cars.
That's
and
cool.
I thought, how cool is that we're creating a safe space for our students, but safe enough where they want to bring their friends along with them.
Yeah,
So,
that's super cool. I think it sounds like actually that story of both parents showing up to pick up their kids sounds like something you would do when your kid's a teenager, honestly.
that would be, I would assume that Chris is getting, or I'm getting them and not communicate. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, that sounds exactly like, that's why you assumed that that's what those parents were doing.
Yes, because I related to them.
It's crazy you talk about that because I've been in the community twice in the last week, and one of the things that I'm noticing is there's more people that attend our church that were invited by friends or friends of friends or somebody that was put in their life randomly, just out and about. I don't go out in Henry County a ton because we see so many people and there's so much traffic. But I was out twice. And one was I went into a bathroom to use the bathroom. Too much information. And somebody
Is that what you do in bathrooms?
somebody said, just they were washing their hands. They turned around, never recognized this person, never seen this person. They said, hey, are you the pastor at Relevant Church? And I'm, 15, 20 minutes north of the church. And I live, 25 minutes south of the church. And so I was like, yeah. And they're like, I was there this Sunday. It was really, really good. And they were invited by their grandmother. So grandmother inviting grandchild. So they were going to come back for Christmas. That was the Christmas week. And then out in the community again. And I was with somebody and they were just like, oh yeah, Sunday was great. And I was like, you were there? And I was like, how did you come? And they started telling me how they've been attending. And here was the thing that stuck out to me the most. And if you're listening or watching, I want you to hear like the power of an invitation.
Oh yeah.
I cannot, and I'm like, how did you come? Well, this person I worked with told me at the hair salon and this, and I was like, wow, I had no idea. And then we got to talking about in that moment, how a young lady who had invited another young lady said, was talking about the life change she had seen in the friend that had invited her here. And so I cannot express, as we've talked about one of our goals for this year, and I'll share some of these things more in the coming weeks at our church, but to see more people come to know Christ, more people attend, more people get involved here at Relevant Church. I think the way it happens is just relational invites, relational care and concern, and people are always looking, always talking about their life and what's going on, and then opportunities to invite them. So
I teach our students, never underestimate the power of invite. We're all here because of an invitation somewhere along the line.
Yeah, true.
And just never underestimate how powerful one simple, hey, come with me this weekend to church could change the course of someone's life.
I think we miss that. I think, look, people have different views about God and theology and the church, and some people have been hurt by the church. But let's be real honest about our culture. They're searching. They're searching for answers. They're searching for something. And I think, if I could just encourage the people who call Relevant Church their home. Look, any church for that matter, if you're having to tune in, to invite your friends and family to experience the life-changing message of Jesus and live that out for them. I know, Julie, we've talked a lot about highlights for our year, and we probably could share a dozen, but there's one, I know you were talking a little bit, we've talked about this several times over the last month, that really stuck out to you and me. So tell us a little bit about that.
So there's a family in our church that just reached out recently. They have a little boy who is going to be baptized soon. And so I received a message on Facebook from the mom asking if our son, who is 15 now, our oldest son, Jace, if he could actually baptize this little boy. And I love that so much just because I know that our oldest now is getting to see kind of the fruits of being a long-term volunteer here at Relevant Church.
That's
and
cool.
the impact that he's made, even just as a student, for other children here at the church. And so I think that's just awesome. I think one of the things I love here about our culture is that you don't necessarily do all the baptisms, and Daniel doesn't do it, but like we see dads baptizing their children, we see moms baptizing their children, friends, small group leaders, and so that's what our son has been for this other child. And so I just think that's the power of influence, and even students at a young age can have an influence on children here.
Yeah, I remember when you got that message and you told me about it, and I went. The boys were in bed that night, and I walked in, and I told Jace, I said, "Hey, check this out." And he said, and I told him about the little boy, and like the look on his face of like shock and like smiling, but a little overwhelmed, like I've had an impact on that kid's life, was a really priceless moment for me as a dad. Yeah. And I think for most people, we talk about there's joy in generosity, there's joy in serving, there's joy in those things. The problem is that joy doesn't come necessarily the first time you show up or the 10th time you show up. The joy is made time over time, gift over gift, minute over minute, dollar over dollar. You go, look at the impact that I've made. And here's the thing that I think, if I can challenge you today, sometimes we'll make a commitment, okay, I'm going to give or I'm going to serve. And then we flake out. Let's call it what it is. Yep. It's flaking out. It's not, oh, I just something. No. We made a commitment and we didn't do it. Let's call it what it is. And America is great at that. Americans, I should say. And so at the end of the day, like you made it, there was an intention that caused you to step up and decide to serve or be a part of something, and you decided to pull back because it got hard.
Yep.
You'll never experience the joy of winning if you stop when things get hard. And so you can apply that to sports, you can apply that to business, you can apply it to marriage, you can apply it to raising kids. And I think we go, I tried serving once, I tried giving once. Well, for 6 weeks, but like, what if your parents stop feeding you after 6 weeks? What if you stop loving your spouse after 6 weeks? What if it's a lifetime? And to experience the true joy, it takes time. And so I've watched our boys, Jace and Trey now, see the joy of generosity over time and the joy of serving others over time. And I'm telling you, I think those two things have had as big of an impact in their life as any other things we've ever tried to instill in them. And so that was a huge one. I'm excited. I think to the same conversation about baptism, we baptized over 300 people this year. That was exciting.
Yeah. Wow.
I think my moment that stood out to me was the night of worship, where we had 25 people or so, or maybe it was 50. I can't remember how many, but then like 50 more or 25 more, whatever. We ended up baptizing over 75 that night. And it was just people coming for spontaneous baptisms, not because it was manipulated, but the power of the Holy Spirit, man. That was pretty phenomenal. I think we're on the cusp of something in people's lives, and I think revival starts inside of us, not around us. And if we can get this right in 2023 in our own lives, we can see, I think, a lot of the things God's put in our heart become a reality. One of the reasons we do this is because we want people to talk about generosity and talk about the joy of serving, to see the impact of their serving. And you've kind of alluded to that about serving and what that means. And for Jace, but I saw a dad who dedicated their children at this church, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, then baptized the kids who were also in my boys' small group in kids ministry. And so there's some really cool things happening in our kids ministry. We're seeing kids pour into kids, young adults pour into kids, all that stuff. And, you know, there's ages and stages that are appropriate for that. But that never know a day without knowing Jesus is one of our big statements that we make at Relevant Church. We're still working on that. We're still improving on that. But I don't know. You came to me probably 5 years ago about this, maybe longer, and talked about never know a day without knowing Jesus, where kids can come in, their parents can say, hey, this is our church. And those kids never know a day with parents that we partner with and the people around them, the brothers and sisters in Christ, they can go, I saw Jesus everywhere I went. And in my leaders, in my small group leaders and the people on the stage. And so I'm excited about what that looks like as we continue to grow in our kids ministry. You guys may not know this. We were talking a little bit before we decided to jump on today. I was blown away when we talk about generosity at how much our church was able to give away this year. Fast forward, or rewind, I should say, to 2020 when all that hit the fan and we opened a new building and take on a new mortgage and various things. And our church has been in great financial shape, but we obviously, like everybody else, had to say, okay, what's priority? What's not priority right now? But this year alone, we gave almost $320,000 in goods and services away to our community, to
That's
Honduras,
incredible.
to Christmas kindness. We'll talk about that. You'll see a quick video about that here. But I know Honduras was impactful for you. If you could talk about what's happening briefly for those who maybe who don't know in Honduras, and we're going to go back twice next year, maybe a little bit about what that did for you and what we'd encourage. Even if we talk about taking our students that are 16 and over. Talk about that a little.
So this year, back in November, I got the opportunity to go with our missions director and our team here at Relevant to Honduras on a medical missions trip. And it was an incredible time. For me, personally, this has been a really tough year of ministry. One of the hardest years. I think we've done this for almost 23 years now, and so we've pretty much kind of thrived, but this year was very difficult. And so going into that week, I had prayed that God would just kind of heal me of all the hurt and the pain that I had experienced this year, specifically through ministry. And so that was actually something that happened when I was down there. I really felt this healing, and it came through serving others. It came through a recalibration for myself and a refocus of just not what was going on inside of me, but like I said, a focusing on what God, the gifts and the talents and the abilities that God has blessed me with. And so I love being down there. We were able to go to villages and provide medical care for people who have not seen a doctor or a medical team in three plus years. And so the welcoming that we got from that was incredible, and just being able to be a part of that was awesome.
Yeah, we've talked about taking, I know another one of our staff who was there this year, talking about taking Jace and their daughter on one of the trips next year. What's the age limits for that? What does that look like? What would you say?
I think, like Carl said, we had several people on the team with teenagers or grandchildren that they would love to bring. And so it is some pretty tough conditions that you have to endure when you're down there. It's not for the weak at all. And so we said probably 16 and older would be a great thing, a great age. We had a teenager with us this year. His mom was on the trip. He did phenomenal. His trip didn't look like ours. He played with kids. He went out and kicked the soccer ball in the field with kids whose parents were waiting to see the doctor and things like that. He did a lot of set up and tear down, but there's a lot of stuff that students can do and be a part of on this trip.
Yeah, I think if the church is going to be all that God's called us to be, it's going to take all generations. And I think I said this a few weeks back. We have any given Sunday 5 generations worshiping together on our campus. That's pretty unheard of. I mean, and I don't mean like, okay, we had one 2-year-old and one 90-year-old. I mean, like, we have people from all groups of people in all stages, which we have ages, stages, races. I mean, it's really a fun thing to sit back and watch, to be a reflection of your community and the brothers and sisters of Christ coming together regardless of where we come from. But if we're going to see the church in the future be like when I pass on, when we move on, when we, decide to retire, whenever that is, what does the church look like? It's going to be very much dependent upon the kids and the students that we're investing in right now. So hear me, not serving your church, not serving in kids ministry, not helping develop and disciple your children at home, not doing the things or just finding other alternatives to be a part of. I got sports, I got this, I got that, and not making church and God and the spiritual growth of your child a priority is not only detrimental to your child, but to the church at large in the future.
Wow.
And so talk to me a little bit about other opportunities. You guys are making some major shifts in our student ministry. No change. Let's say growth brings change, change brings loss, loss brings pain, pain brings grief. And so for some, it's hard. It's like, oh, this is the way we've always done it. There's some grieving. I get that. But ultimately, as we grow, we can't always do the things we've always done. What we've learned is we're in a new rhythm in our culture. Basketball, football, baseball, sports, soccer, all those things, cheerleading, Wednesday nights have become a very competitive night for kids' attention. So we have made a decision to move things to Sunday. I'll let you talk about that in a minute. But the reality is we want to reach as many people with the gospel, but not just have them show up occasionally, but like pour into their lives and grow grow them, have them connected. So talk about student ministry next year, Sundays, student camp, all of those things.
Yep. So this past year, we had a really cool opportunity where we partnered with FCA and opened up some really cool doors. Myself and another staff member were the character coaches for the Locust Grove football team. And we would go to practice every Tuesday, and I would see a dozen or so students from wrestling practice, football practice, marching band practice, cross country, basketball conditioning, you name it, they're all there. And they all said the same thing: I'll be back when the season's over.
Wow.
And so I realized that we have a large student population that are involved in sports and other activities. Our middle school, we had football games, cross country, you had all kinds of things going on. And so we would take a hit. And so I want to break down as many barriers as possible to reach as many students as we can. So one of those barriers was our Wednesday night service. It's something we'd always done. More than half my life, Wednesday night has been a youth night. So I don't know what to do on a Wednesday if there's no youth. And through prayer and just kind of seeking what's best for our ministry, we decided that Sunday night looked better for us and remove barriers keeping students from being on our campus. And so beginning in January, we are shifting all of our youth experiences to Sunday night, 5 o'clock. With that, I think it gives us a lot of flexibility. We can move the time up. We currently meet at 7 on Wednesdays. So 5 o'clock on a Sunday means we get out earlier, which gives small groups flexibility if they want to go out to eat afterwards, if they want to hang out here as a group a little bit, order a pizza, do a book study, whatever that looks like. Because I can look in my own life and know some of the deepest relationships I have didn't come when I was at church, but from going out to eat and after church. And even as a youth pastor, going out with students, and that really built some community, and you probably know that as well as being a youth pastor in your past. And so we're giving the flexibility to have those moments where our small group leaders can go out afterwards, and it's not so late on a school night. They can do that. And I know that a weekday is hard for a lot of our volunteers. You have a long day at work, a bad day at work, you get stuck at work, and it makes serving sometimes hard. And because of that, consistency was a factor where I can't be there every week because this week I have to stay later. And so hopefully moving it to a Sunday, we would eliminate a good bit of that.
It's interesting you say that, Julie. I'm sitting here thinking about when we were in middle school and high school and youth ministry. I can say this. I think maybe you can push back. I don't care, but I think we are where we are today in ministry with the relationships that we have in ministry today, not because of our church, but because of our student ministry that we were a part of growing up. Our former youth pastors on our staff, they were mentors to us as teenagers. One of our former youth interns, who's older, is one of our elders. And I remember we would go, used to sports didn't compete quite as much and various things. And we'd have Tuesday nights and we'd do various things on Tuesday nights for reaching out to other students in our community. But afterwards we'd go to McDonald's and we would eat. And those are the times where the relationships were developed the most. Yeah. Well, let's just be honest. You can't do that on Wednesday nights. 7 o'clock, kids are running in late. They're trying to get here. Parents are trying to get them. And the line around the parking lot can get crazy. Trying to get them home by 9, if at all possible. And it's just like the relational capital that you have to have with a student to build trust is just not possible in the current context that we were doing ministry in. And so, we've said it may mean that 20% of our students have to kind of rearrange their schedule to be here, and we're going to have to rethink some of our leadership and some of those things. But the opportunity for true discipleship and true life change that we experienced through our student ministry, I think can happen in the future. And
I can't tell you the messages my youth pastor preached to me when I was in youth, but I can tell you the opportunities we went out, or the times we went out to eat afterwards.
Yes.
And the conversations we had in the parking lot. those one-on-one intentional moments. And that, I would say, much to your middle school, high school ministry led to where you're at today, same speaks to me.
Yeah.
I'm not here because of a great message I may have heard, but I'm here because of those conversations from that message, or just life conversations we had outside of the church.
Can I say something like off task a little bit, but I'll just say it.
I guess.
I think
new, right?
more often than not, your future daughter-in-law or son-in-law are going to come from the circles of influence that you surround your kids with.
Mm-hmm.
We met in youth ministry. We met in church. I'm not saying everybody meets, but the reality is you're going to find your future daughter-in-law and son-in-law in the circles they run in. So I'm raising my kids. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not poking fun of people who aren't in church, but I want them around good girls that have good morals, that are, doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean God can't heal those things. I just mean girls that aren't rebelling against their parents and throwing shade and sending pictures and doing various things. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we are very, like, the best chance for me to find them. I know some crazy church boys and some crazy church girls, but we also are, obviously, the boundaries we have with homeschooling and all, but like, I'm going to put them in circles of influence that give them the best chance to succeed. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I know every kid has a chance to play professional sports. Every parent thinks that. Let's be honest.
Daniel did, right?
I thought I did, and my parents sat me down and said, "This isn't for you."
Exactly. So it's like we end up playing like men's softball league, and so I'm not want to poke the bear here. What I'm trying to say is, like, let's just be real about what matters here, and let's get our kids involved. And if they don't like to come to church, then maybe we can sit down and talk about what it looks like to help them understand. Maybe they've been out of church for 14, 15 years and like they've got habits they got to break. I don't know. I'm just simply saying, you're the parent, you get them here.
Let me say this: if church is always an option, it'll always be optional.
Yes.
That's right.
And so when you wake up and your kids are like, "Are we going to church today?"
That's good.
They know it's an option.
Yeah.
And so when they get older, they know it's optional.
Yeah.
And so kids are not going to follow your advice; they're going to follow your example.
That's good.
So lead the example.
So
be in church.
1.2 times a month at church on Sundays is the new national average. That ain't cutting it. Let's be honest. Hey, we watch online. Okay, we also watch everything else online. So let's figure out what matters, and that's community. Talk to us about the summer camp. We decided to take a risk, take a chance, book a camp, and let's go ahead and pull that off ourselves.
I'm way more excited than my face shows.
Yes.
I promise. No, we went back to camp this past year, had a blast, took 60-something students, baptized 4, and just great conversations, great community came from that camp. And we thought we could take it a step further this year and this next year and do it ourselves. So same location, Panama City at Laguna Beach. Already got, I think, 15, 16 students signed up for that. So we're really excited. We're going to bring our own band down there. It's going to be beach camp relevant style. So
so we have a couple other churches joining us for that, but we're leading the charge on the bulk of that. And ultimately, that's the last week in July. Let me say this to parents real quick. July 24th. That is open house week. I've never seen any kid make it to heaven by going to an open house.
That'll preach.
I've never seen their life change by showing up in a classroom for 15 minutes and getting their syllabus. What I have seen is the Word of God and relationships and camps radically change kids' lives. Yep. So don't give me the excuse, I got to take them to open house. No. Okay, you take them to open house. I would rather see their heart changed, and then they'll connect at school better than they feel more familiar with their classroom.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Maybe I'm poking the bear again. I don't know.
The students don't really want to go to open house. Let's be real.
So
I did it anyways.
So look, toward the end of January, we'll start announcing more about camp and what that looks like. So I'm excited about that. Let's talk a little bit about, you talked about, we'll circle back to another conversation here in a minute, this 2023. But we'll break here in a minute and then come back and talk to Amadi Leaks, who's director of Gigi's house. But I want to talk about what we're doing in January. We're kicking off a brand new series next weekend called, or this coming weekend, I should say, called Life's Toughest Questions, Life's Biggest Questions, Life's Greatest Questions, whatever you want to call it in your mind. We're tackling some questions everybody asks. Who am I? What's my purpose? We're tackling some very hard cultural questions. What's my identity? Identity has been placed in what we feel far too often. So we're going to tackle that in January. And then the thing that I want to share with our listeners today in our church today is that we have a podcast that we've launched called The Good Life. And we're going to really be digging. So go to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, go to, I think it's on Google Play now. Maybe
Google
it's not.
Play, Spotify, YouTube.
Spotify, and subscribe. Leave us a review if you like it. If you don't, just don't listen anymore. But at the end of the day, we're going to be really digging deeper on going to a certain level on Sunday and then digging deeper throughout the week. In fact, there's an episode that drops tomorrow as well, a New Year's episode that drops that talk to you about how to make the most of the new year. So yeah, if you'll do that, and then we're starting something toward the end of January. Dates are still to be determined. You'll hear more about that this coming week as well. For groups, people who are looking for groups, these are going to be more mid-size on-campus groups, Sundays and Wednesdays. And I'm excited about that because people are hungry to grow in God's word and understand what it means to truly follow Jesus, but also build relationships. And so all across our campus, we're talking about large group, small group, large group, small group. So we'll have some medium-sized groups that'll lead to some other groups that'll be coming out of that. And so I'm excited about that. And so I know one of the things that we've done this year that has been really a highlight probably of our ministry in general, and is that as we've taken over Gigi's house. As I say taken over, we were asked to lead the charge in Gigi's house. And so in a few moments, we're going to come back with Amadi Leaks, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Gigi's house, and talk to her a little bit about what's to come, what's happening. We can talk more freely on this than we can on Sunday morning. Many of the young ladies attend our church. God is doing some crazy things in their life, and we'll talk more about that. But I want to show you a quick recap before we come back of what we call Christmas Kindness Event. We partnered with Caring for a Cause and helped 172 kids or 187 kids. We always get these numbers confused. It's in the video. And we're able to make a huge impact, just loving on families, but also being very generous so that they can open Christmas presents Christmas morning. Take a look at this. We are back with Amadi Leaks, who is the director at Gigi's house, and wanted to catch you up on some happenings that have happened with Gigi's house. We don't talk as much about it on Sunday mornings because the young ladies attend our church, and sometimes knowing what's happened in their lives and what's going on can be a trigger for them. And so Julie and I, who can't be with us at this moment for this portion of our time together, have gotten to spend a lot of time with these young ladies over the last few weeks. And I'm telling you, they've stole our heart. They really have. Yeah. And Amadi, you have been there since, I guess, September-ish.
August.
End of August.
Yeah, end of August.
When you came in, there was a lot of transition happening in the house. So why don't you tell us a little bit, for those maybe who are tuning in, who are like, I hear Gigi's house, I don't know what Gigi's house is. Catch them up to speed on what Gigi's house does, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what's been happening.
Absolutely. So Gigi's house is a safe home for victims of sex trafficking. And so we provide wraparound services for girls ages 13 to 17 plus. And we provide everything from homeschooling to medical care for them, making sure they get to their visits, and just love, providing them, meeting them where they are at their point when they come to us. And a lot of them come to us very broken. They do not trust anyone. And so we're that first arm of service to them in that season.
So I think this is a great opportunity for us to cast a little vision about what really goes on in the human trafficking realm. I've seen articles even this week talking about the biggest epidemic we're facing as a country, as a world. Atlanta is one of the hubs in our country for human trafficking. Oftentimes we think of human trafficking as escort services and various things of grown women, even men these days. But tell us a little bit about the problem, the epidemic we're seeing, what's happening, how these young ladies end up in maybe trafficking, what we're seeing in that, and how big of a problem it really is.
It's a huge problem. A lot of people tend to think that, human trafficking victims, like you said, it's just your escort service, or that they're, just trafficking themselves, for money. And a lot of these young women and young girls come from, middle class neighborhoods, upper class neighborhoods. We've had straight A students that were trafficked. We've had girls that came from upper class neighborhoods that were trafficked. Human trafficking does not discriminate. It does not discriminate across racial boundaries. Gigi's house has had the privilege to serve all girls of all different backgrounds. And so I can tell you that just being in close contact with these girls and seeing them on a day-to-day basis, that human trafficking touches every spectrum. It does not matter where you come from.
I read an article this past week, one of our staff sent us, and it was talking about a boyfriend who was trafficking his girlfriend. And so we often think that, all these girls are runaways, which is a large portion of them, maybe even foster children who don't have a home or have been in a group home or maybe in a foster home. But many of these are trafficked by someone they know,
Absolutely.
someone they trusted, or someone they trusted that they maybe have an uncle or a father. And so these young ladies are, once they're in the business, because it's not their business, it's their pimp's business, they are trafficked. Tell us a little bit about what a day or a week would look like for one of these 10, 12, 14-year-old young ladies.
Oh, gosh. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, they would be sold multiple times, 10, 12 times a day by their trafficker or by their pimp or John. And so it's just on and on every single day. And like you said, it's not that they don't have a home. Some of them were from a home. They may not have had two parents in that home. Wow. But what we have seen, especially here lately, a lot of our girls, they were trafficked by a family member, whether that was a mom's boyfriend. And when they first told that family member that they trusted about the trafficking or about the abuse, no one believed them. And so it went on for years before someone ever listened. And oftentimes when someone listened, they were no longer in that home.
It's crazy because when we meet these girls and we talk to them, obviously they're reserved telling you their story, but the one thing they keep coming back to was the brokenness in their childhood, the loss of someone who let them down, parent. And so our culture is in an epidemic family crisis that we call the crisis of brokenness. It starts in the home, single parent homes especially, and or abusive homes. And so they feel neglected. Yeah. And then not only do they have the pain of the neglect, they have all the abuse they've gone through. But it's crazy to me when we talk to them, they still point back to what happened when I was 6. And so all the trafficking was kind of a byproduct of some of the things that happened earlier. And so I'm just astounded at just the levels of pain. And so after one of our services recently, I had the honor of just talking to the young ladies about, God's plan for their life. They had some questions. You were there that day. You actually called me over to talk to them. And it was just amazing to me. They want to know Jesus. They want to love God, but they're so hurt. Yeah. And they're just so broken. And so I know the hard part about this is they attend our church. We have several group homes that attend our church, many foster families in our church. And so I find that you've talked about this with me several times. Anytime I'm going to kind of push or toe the line on talking about this, we have to give the girls a heads up because it can trigger them. And so this is a great forum for us to let you know more about what's going on without being a trigger for the young ladies. And so I think the reality is I said to them, listen, what happened to you is not caused by God. I don't know why it happened. I don't know why even it was allowed to happen to you, but there's a real enemy. And so I'm trying to get them to see through their local church, through people like you and Sandra and the house moms that are in the home, and then our church family, what true love is, what it means to honor them and show dignity to them and find their wholeness and healing. And so the people of Relevant Church who give so generously, who serve so generously, are making a huge impact. And so I was able to share with them that we would be advocates for them. We would, they're going to have to allow me to say some things that make them uncomfortable and just be an advocate for them. And so we've taken in since September, how many new young ladies have we taken in and been able to serve? And some we've been able to put back in a safe environment. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we've rescued or helped 12 girls since September.
Wow.
Yeah, 12 girls. 3 of them were able to be reunified with family, and so they've left, and we are now at almost 10 girls. The current house is full, and we've got a waiting list started for the new house.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty incredible.
I think about over the last several weeks we've had, it's crazy because, when a young lady moves out, and this is the joy of the new house, and this is what I want our church to hear and the people who may be watching this. The first house is a 3-level house, and it's rooms on one level. There's a living area, and then there's a school area, and that's a very difficult layout compared to the new homes. The new homes allow us to be able to integrate more young ladies without the triggers.
Yeah.
So the new home, everybody just kind of goes into their own floor. They're all in living quarters. The new homes are separated in various ways. And because the last few weeks, as we've been able to reinstate young ladies into homes or into better facilities where they can have a mom and a dad or a family, then we bring new young ladies in, and that's a trigger as well. And so tell us when the new home, we're going to be able to service 20 young ladies at the same time, or serve, I should say, 20 young ladies at the same time with plans for 3 more homes in a school. Tell us when that new home opens in the next several weeks, as soon as we can get the CO, a couple parts we're waiting on. What will tell us what the next maybe 30 to 60 days would look like after that, because it's sad, yet exciting that we get to make a difference all at the same time.
Absolutely. So the new home is, the staff, everybody is super excited about the new home because the layout is what brings the excitement. It's going to be so much easier to take our girls who have been through the process and are well on their healing journey and kind of separate them when you have new girls that come in and have a lot of triggers because of the way that the layout is. And so it's going to create a situation where the staff will have less of burdens to deal with whenever a girl is severely triggered and is making the attempt that they're going to run.
That's good.
Because the layout is just so much different. And even with the transition that we've had, you mentioned that earlier about with the staff, we have people on board now who literally want to be at Gigi's house to make an impact. It's not about a paycheck.
That's good.
You cannot work at Gigi's house for a paycheck. There's just not enough money that would cover everything that you see.
That's good.
And so these people really love these girls from their hearts.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about generosity of Relevant Church, one of the things I want us to be able to do, because we are partially state funded for these young ladies, which is even hard to think about the fact that has to be a part of our culture that we live in. But the other part is we want this to be the best, safest, most inspirational place for girls to find wholeness, healing, wellness, purpose, and have the best workers. And we want to honor those people who are giving of their time. Like you said, there's no paycheck, but we want to pay well.
Absolutely.
I think it's important. These are the frontline workers in the crisis of brokenness in our community. And so we want to pay well. We want to do those things. And so our generosity, one of the things I want to do as a pastor is help supplement as much as we can towards those things.
Yeah.
And then in the next few years, somewhere in the next year-ish, we should be opening up a facility, 2 stories, with gymnasium, multi-purpose areas. Tell us a little bit about what that's going to be used for and how that's going to help us serve the girls better.
Yeah, so the girls right now, of course, all of their schooling is homeschooled on site. But what it would allow for when we have that new building is even their doctor's visits. Staff is having to transport them to all of their doctor's visits, but sometimes you can't get an appointment as fast as you need it for some of our girls that come to us. And so having that new administrative building in school, we'll have medical professionals that can come on site and treat our girls, which is a big, huge game changer just in what we deal with every day. And then also having a gymnasium there, and there's plans for a salon. A lot of our girls know how to do hair. They know how to do nails. That's just something they really love to do, and they're really good at it. And so having a facility where they can actually take advantage of it, we've had some local businesses donate salon chairs and things and said, hey, when you get that ready, we're willing to partner up with you. And they can have a skill set that they can go out, once they're reunified, and make some money and make a living.
You say that. I know when I talked to the young ladies a few weeks ago, I said, our goal is to look 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, and you realize, man, this community of believers and workers and house moms, helped us find purpose. And so I'll never forget, we were over there cleaning one day and they found like 100 fingernails on the back patio. That was the highlight of the day. Everybody's talking about, look at this one, look at the color of this one, look at the design on this one.
They do their own nails.
Yeah. So
They're so good.
That's the thing. Like, so I want our church to hear, we, in our first part of our conversation today, we talked a lot about, what's happening in our church, what's happening in our church in the future. But today I think this particular ministry, not that other ministries aren't, but I think it's very close to the heart of God.
Yeah.
And so if I can say anything to our church in 2023 is this: we are going to serve more young ladies, make an impact in our community in some of the darkest places that exist in the world. And human trafficking is probably the darkest thing that I can think of in our culture today. And so I don't know. It is one of the top three, I should say that. And I don't know how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
I would have never dreamed 6 months ago when we had a conversation with Sabrina, who came in and said, would you guys help lead this? I never would have dreamed how quickly. And I mean, like, the foot's on the gas.
Yeah.
And so church, we need you. I just want to say thank you for your generosity all year long, but also want to encourage you to continue to be generous. I know Amadi has a list of names of people who've applied. We've finally gotten most of that through all the fingerprinting and various things. And so will be opportunities to serve starting in January and early in this year. It's just a process to get people involved. And so we're looking forward to serving and making a difference. And so 2023, let me challenge you as we sign off for this conversation to be thinking as we jump into this new series this year. We're going to talk about, what is your word as we kick off January 8th, talking about purpose. What is your word? What is your phrase that you're asking the Holy Spirit to kind of put on your heart and dream for what 2023 looks like? I've had several. Last year I told you my word was the time is now, and I didn't know what that meant, but man, has a lot happened this year for us to take advantage of in ministry opportunities. And so there have been years where the year was just build. I didn't even know what that meant. And then I said, oh, wow, okay, so COVID hits and various things happen, and I realized, okay, I know what that means now. So allow the Holy Spirit to speak to you, be challenging yourself, and then join us January 8th at 9:30 and 11, and we'll kick off this new series, Life's Toughest Questions. God bless you. Thank you, Relevant Church. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.